Hello everyone, my name is Korosh Erfani and I am sociologist and writer of the book called Infinitism. The idea of infinitism is to find the infinitude that is going on in the matter, and thanks to that to change it into what we want. So the idea is very simple. If we go through the structure of matter, we will find the different parts, the different units, and then we can go through these different levels of the structure of matter, and finally we will find the possibility to change this structure in a given level, and then from that level we would be able to change the whole structure of the matter. And if this change is well organized and targeted, we will arrive to have what we want. This is the idea of producing, as much as we want of anything, of any resources or materials that we need. So this general approach is not useful if we cannot go through the details and find a logic, a rationale for that. And that's why when we start to study the structure of the matter, we see that it's a question of the atom, and the atom are considered as the smallest particle of matter that cannot be divided, at least by the chemical means. But we know that the atoms have some smaller pieces inside them. So we call these elements of the atom the subatomic particles, right? The subatomic particles. And if we start to see them and we break them down, we arrive to what we call the elementary particles. So what are these elementary particles? I try to see what is the usual or the conventional definition of the elementary particles. So that's why we go together over this page, which is the Wikipedia for this topic, elementary particles. So what is interesting is the first explanation of the text related to elementary particles. It said that in particle physics, an elementary particle or fundamental particle is a subatomic particle with no substructure. And look, what is interesting, and all the idea of the infinitism is here, actually. You can see that it says is a subatomic particle with no currently known substructure. What does it mean? It means that it is not composed of other particles. The infinitism says that that's the maybe most truthful part of this phrase. The currently, no. We don't have any idea right now, when we are talking about that, what could be the structure of a subatomic particle, right? For example, what would be the elements by which we can get the lepton, the quark, the proton, for example. We consider them, or at least the leptons and quark, we consider them as the subatomic particle, as the smallest part of the structure of matter that we know. But the idea of the infinitism is that if we take it as a fixed reality, so we will be stuck over there and we cannot go further and farther, right? But the idea of the infinitism is that we should keep in our mind that there would be a possibility to find what are the components of the subatomic particle, of each subatomic particles actually. What does it mean? It means that if you take one of them, look, we go together, subatomic particles, right? It says in physical science, subatomic particles are smaller than atoms. They can be composite particles, right, such as the neutron and proton, or elementary particles, which according to the standard model are not made of other particles. That's where we can make a big historical mistake, right? This is what we did before, but we can repeat that. Now, that is a historical and historic mistake, error, wrong idea. Why? Because based on the experience of finding more and more the smaller units of any small unit that we had already discovered, we know that if we continue that, if we keep discovering more and more and more, we will get finally one day, next year, or in 3 years, what we will get the elements by which the structure of the subatomic or the elementary particles are composed of, constitute, made of. And then it will be questioned at that time, what would be the structure of these sub-elements, sub-particles. So that's why, according to infinitism, we should never, not only for this case, but for any other cases, and never consider that there wouldn't be anything beyond this. And this is true for the microsphere, micro-universe, or macro-universe. In both cases, we are suggesting that there would be any end, any finite point where you can say that this is it, this is the end. There is nothing beyond that. You cannot say that for the micro particle, small particle, nor for the macro cluster, for example, or for universe. Everything is a part of a bigger unit, and everything has some smaller unit inside itself. And when we say everything, it means really every single thing. It means there is no any exception for that. That's a general rule. That's a universal rule. As long as we are talking about the matter. If we are talking about something else, something no material, I don't know what it could be, but maybe there would be some other rules. We don't know. But as long as we know that the universe, what we call existence, is purely material, which means the matter, so we can believe in this suggested rule that there would be always something either in the macro level bigger and the micro level smaller. So there is no smallest, there is no biggest, there is only and only smaller and bigger, smaller and bigger. And it keeps going forever. And it doesn't stop. It does never stop. So, once we have this idea in our mind, our approach starts to change. It changed completely, since we know that for finding what would be the parts, the units consisting or composing the subatomic particles, that would be question of time to find them, right? That would be question of our progress in science and technology. But what the philosophy is doing, the big and valuable service the philosophy is doing for us, is to give us the idea that we never have to believe in the finitude. There is no finitude in anything. The finitude is actually a composition of infinitudes that come together, that encounter and create something that we consider just metaphorically, by the sake of, conceptualization or perception as finitude, as something that has some born, frame, borders, and we consider that as an entity, right? But in any entity, in any finitude, there is an infinitude. There is the infinity going down, running. So, imagine for 1 second that there wouldn't be anything in the universe without this capacity of showing us, of giving us the idea of infinity, which means infinity is in every single thing, the very small thing or very big and huge and giant things, like the cluster galaxies, for example, stars or anything hugely big. You have that, and also in the very small and little particles, you have also the infinitude of the units, the infinitude of the components, the infinitude of the parts. So you see that there is the same structure in the very little thing that we can observe and the huge things that we can observe. The same rule, the same rational, the same logic is going on over there for both of them, for very small particle and very huge entities. And what is interesting in this idea is that based on the idea of the infinitism, by finding these micro or macro level infinitely, endlessly, we can always find some sphere, some zones, some areas where it would be possible to start to make some operations, some changes. And from that moment, by these changes, we can effectively change the one part or one segment of the structure of a phenomenon, and from that moment we can go for more and more additional changes, alterations, and finally get something new, get something different in that phenomenon. So this is true that we have been said by science that the particularity of the atom cannot change, and that's why we define, classify, categorize the things, the materials and elements based on the composition of the atom. But when we have this idea that the atom is a universe with the infinite elements inside, then we can start to believe in the fact that by science and technology we would be able to make some discovery and then some invention, combining both of them, discoveries and inventions, and then arrive to what could be a very interesting point of our involvement, our engagement, our technological engagement on the structure of matter, on the very, very low and small levels of this structure. And from that moment, we can see that we don't have to wait, we don't have to accept the permanence of the structure of an atom, for example. We can see its constants, we can understand its constants and permanence, but we cannot accept that, We can believe in the possibility of changing the structure of atom, the atomic structure of something in the very, very low and micro levels and layers. And from that moment, we can see that this atom is becoming something else. And from this change of the atomic structure of a phenomenon, we can get another phenomenon, a new phenomenon. And that's the mystery, and that's the key for producing and reproducing everything we want. Any single thing we want. It is possible, theoretically. Now it's a question of how we can do it practically. So that's why in this discussion called, or in this field called Infinitylogy, we believe that by combining philosophy, science, and technology, we can be able, in long term, not immediately or today, but in long term, we would be able to find the infinitude that is going on, that is running in the very micro level of the structure of matter, in the atomic particles, very elementary, low layer of the elementary particles, and we can find the ways to change it, to modify it, to alter it, to manipulate it. And from that operation, from that action, everything starts to change, and we get something new. We get the matter that we want. We get the phenomenon that we want. We get the resources that we want. And from this idea of the production and reproduction of the resources, we will put an end to the idea of the scarcity, to the idea of the limitation of the resources, and we get the limitlessness, the infinitude of the resources, the endlessness of the resources. And then we can go where we want. We can change completely the historical level of our civilization. It's possible by combining these two ideas of the infinitology in one hand as the theoretical basis of this idea, and infinitism as the projection of the practical aspect of the usage of the infinity. If we combine them, if we make them progress and advance in this path, I am pretty sure that one day we will be able to do so. Why? Because our creativity is infinite, as is the structure of the universe. So if we combine the infinitude of our creativity and infinitude of the universe, then we get the infinity of everything, every single thing. Thank you very much for watching. I hope that you share your ideas with us. I suggest and invite you to go to the website infinitylogy.com, infinitism.info, and to be in touch with us for exchanging our ideas. Thank you very much.